Hi guys, Mike here. Hope all you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to be talking about uranium stocks and comparing them to other commodities. Hope you're doing well. My name is Michael Hernik. If you're new to my channel, it's The Financial Mechanic. Please comment, subscribe below. Would love to hear from you and get your support. I also have a Facebook page called The Financial Mechanic where I talk about business, money, economics, investing, and of course, uranium. Just before we jump into this video, nothing in this video is investment advice. You should always do your own research and you should make no investment decisions on anything you hear in this video, and this is purely for educational purposes only. Okay, so with that, I was meaning to shoot a video sort of comparing uranium to other commodities and how does uranium sort of rank towards things like oil and gas and gold and silver and so forth. So I wanted to have a bit of a discussion on this, on why I'm extremely bullish on uranium and sort of why I think uranium as compared to other commodities may present some great opportunities. So first of all, uranium, let's talk about that for a second. So uranium price per pound right now is just over $50 per pound. So we've been really flat and really stagnant with respect to any movement in the spot market. And again, the big reason for this is because we have had a risk-off environment in equities. So again, I've talked about this in previous videos. When you have a risk-off environment, you have less appetite from investors to buy vehicles like SPUT, which is the Sprott Uranium Physical Trust, as well as, buying into the spot market for uranium. So this is happening currently, but I do think we are going to sort of come into more of a risk-on environment in the middle to latter part of this year. So, but that being said, uranium again, still flat, and this is sort of what's happening. Now, how does uranium sort of stack up to other commodities and sort of my thoughts on this? So let's take oil for instance. So I just looked, oil's price right now is about $78 per barrel. Now, my thoughts on oil. Now, couple things. Now, before I sort of go into each of some of these big picture commodities, I want to outline that I think in general, all commodities, especially over the next couple of years, are going to do well. I do think so. But I do think that some commodities have already had their run, coupled with other commodities may not sort of see the overall run that commodities will in the next commodity cycle. So I just want to sort of preclude that and sort of make a note of that. So oil, $78 per barrel. My thoughts on oil is that I think oil has already had its run. Now, I do think that the thesis in oil is strong. We have underinvested in sort of oil and gas exploration, especially over the last 10 years. And the demand for oil, regardless of your thoughts on its impact to the environment and so forth, is still here. There's just nothing around that at this point. We need oil. And whether you can agree with that or not, oil is still here and the demand is still very real. But that being said, I do think that when you saw oil spiking over $100 a barrel last year, sort of as we were going through that, sort of growth cycle, I guess, during the pandemic, if you want to call it, I do think that that is a little bit behind us. In other words, I don't see a circumstance where oil is going to go up to $150, $200 a barrel, at least in the next couple of years. I don't see it. In fact, I see it as a circumstance where oil may actually go down, especially if inflation keeps going down. Now, my thoughts on that are sort of mixed. I can do another video on inflation if you guys want. Comment below, let me know. But in general, the monetary policy with the Fed, the central banks, is to sort of reduce inflation. And unfortunately, oil doesn't do well in a low inflationary environment. So this is just my thoughts. So I think oil, equities and gas equities may have some opportunity, but I don't think they have as much runway or opportunity as something like uranium, for instance. Okay, so that's a really big one. Gold and silver, my thoughts on that. So I think gold and silver are, especially gold is money. So I don't really see gold as being an investment that gives you a yield, for instance. In fact, when you buy gold equities or just any kind of form of gold, whether it's physical or paper gold, you don't want gold to go up to $10,000 an ounce, because when you have gold at $10,000 an ounce, you have oil at $300, $400, $500 per barrel. And that is an environment where we are likely in hyperinflation and there are much bigger problems in the world. In fact, I see gold as more of insurance as opposed to an investment. Silver, I see a little bit differently. But just last thoughts on gold. I think gold will do well. I think, see, one thing that's important for you guys to know too, and this is something I learned from a lot of sort of proponents in the gold space, precious metal space, is that gold trades on the 10-year treasury, the US 10-year treasury, okay? So this is really, really important. So you have to follow the 10-year treasury with respect to the impact on gold. And I do think that when the Fed starts cutting rates, you will see that 10-year treasury go down, which will do really, really well for precious metals, particularly gold. So I think there's a lot of runway for precious metals, including gold, but I don't see gold as an yieldable investment, if that's even a word. Basically, I see it more as an insurance. Now, silver is an interesting idea. I think silver will have its point in time where it will run, and I think there's a lot of opportunities. I just think that a lot of the thesis around silver is a little bit overblown, and here's the reason why. Now, although silver is used in a lot of different aspects in the industry, including, you know, electric vehicles, so EVs, and in medicine and so forth, and in instruments and tools, you know, and all sort of weird applications as well that are needed, I don't think, for instance, that the need for EVs is going to be the reason why silver spikes to over $100 an ounce, for instance, or its potential to. I don't see it. But that being said, I do think when you compare gold to silver ratios and stuff like that, silver is definitely undervalued. But again, I don't see an opportunity for silver, you know, and my thought as much as maybe something like uranium and other asset classes, simply because nobody knows when that will happen and if it will even happen. So, you know, again, another interesting thing too is that I do see silver more as an investment, and that could provide a yield in terms of it going up in price and down in price rather than gold sort of being considered as money. But I do think that silver does have an opportunity, just I don't see that opportunity being as large as maybe some folks do think. But that being said, I still do really, really like the precious metal space. Okay. Now, the other sort of commodities I want to comment on are things like potash. Okay, so I have a bit of an interesting story on potash, and then, you know, anything, you know, similar to other commodities like uranium and so forth, but potash is an interesting one. So about 10 years ago, I invested some money into a potash company. And I knew nothing about the potash thesis, nothing. And the only reason why I invested in this stock is because someone's like, oh, you know, this stock is going to do well. So I did a little bit of research and I liked the company and I bought it. And I lost pretty much all my money in that stock. And the point I want to say this is that when you have conviction that is high enough and you understand the thesis and the fundamentals strong enough, you don't care if the price goes up or down. In fact, when I invested into that potash company, I knew nothing about potash, so I lost all my money, right? Whereas something like uranium, even though right now the stocks are down, okay, and it's a great time to look at if there are any opportunities in the space, absolutely, as compared to the spot price, for sure. It's a risk-off environment. But again, like I said in the other video, I don't care if the price goes down because I have such high conviction on uranium, and I'll talk a little bit more of that at the end of the video. So anyway, I want to compare that to potash. So I don't see, again, I don't understand potash's thesis as much as I do with uranium and other commodities. But I do wanted to share that because I do think potash will sort of run with the other commodities in the entire commodity cycle. But you really need to understand, you know, that respective commodity, especially like things like rare earths and so forth, and any other commodity. Another one again is timber. So any kind of, you know, timber equity. So you know, forestry companies. Again, I invested about 10, 15 years ago into a company that was in the timber space, so the commodity space. And again, I lost a pile of money in that company because I did not understand the timber thesis. Now, what I will say about things like potash and wood, I should say, as a commodity is that I do think those are more correlated to general economic performance. So for instance, where is wood being used, right? Where is lumber being used in the economy? Is it in home construction? Is it in other industrial areas, right? So that is what you really need to understand. And I do think that things like lumber and even potash to a certain extent, where potash is used a lot in fertilizers and so forth, will depend on economic demand for that specific commodity. So that was kind of a little bit of a runway on sort of the big commodity areas that I've been looking at. I'll say one more thing is I do think agriculture and so agriculture, so things like wheat, corn, peas. I do think things like, I will say too, coffee. This is a really interesting one. Probably not in the next couple of years, but there's a lot of sort of research and pieces that have been published to demonstrate that coffee is going to be an extremely rare commodity at some point. And this is something that I don't think people talk about. So you could go take a look at it and see. But the demand for coffee is going up, yet the supply is not there. So that could be an interesting area to look into as well, is coffee. What was the other one I wanted to mention? And just general agricultural commodities, I think will do well as well, because the demand for plant-based food is going up. So I think you'll see that as well. But again, I do think that's a little bit more correlated to economic demand. Now, here's why I think this is every single commodity I've just listed very generally is so much different than uranium. Uranium is used in many applications, but generally speaking for generating clean base load energy, so power, okay? And the thing with uranium that's really exciting is that the supply of uranium is so low as compared to the forecasted demand and the demand now and where it will go. And this is what makes uranium so interesting, because at the end of the day, we need uranium. And you could say that with any other commodity, but the unique thing with uranium is that we're really not mining enough uranium. And at some point, the price just has to go up. And I think in general, we have underinvested in all commodities. But uranium has not seen its time yet, just as compared to things like, I would argue that gold has definitely seen a little bit of a run over the last 5 years. I would argue that oil has already possibly seen its run. So things like this is something to consider and really think about, where I do think that uranium still has a huge runway, especially when you consider the fundamentals. So this is what makes me extremely excited about uranium. Now, guys, comment below, let me know, what do you guys think on how uranium stacks up against other commodities? Is there any other commodities I didn't talk about that you're really excited about? Let me know, comment down below. I would appreciate to hear your feedback. And again, I'm going to shoot more videos like this, and let me know what you guys would like to hear, and comment below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Really appreciate you guys. Take care. Have a good rest of your day.